discussed the idea that Zeus's treatment of Hera was the catalyst for her jealous, vindictive, and dangerous behaviour. Zeus was the god of the sky, king to all other gods, a ruler, a protector, and father to all Greeks, usually associated with the symbol of a thunderbolt and lightning, asserting power and fear amongst all. Adding to this, he was husband to Hera, yet acted in many unfaithful ways, consistently searching for lust, prompting his wife to react in vengeful and jealous manners. Hera, the goddess of marriage and married women, was always outraged by her husband's infidelities, yet was willing to reconcile this rage under one condition: the annihilation of her husband's mistress. Some instances of infidelity prove that Hera's acts can be justified due to Zeus's actions. However, other myths discuss Hera's dangerous and vindictive nature. Interpretations of these myths differ amongst sources. Many ancient writers discuss one perspective as ultimately the stories were passed down verbally and were open to the storyteller's own bias and interpretation. Despite this, the theme across all interpretations are consistent and do explain the behaviour of Hera regarding her relationship with Zeus. The affair between Zeus and Callisto proves that Zeus does indeed exhibit disloyal acts, leaving Hera to rightfully react with hurt. Her behaviour can also be justified within another affair between Zeus and Io. However, some myths may prove that Hera's vindictive behaviour does correspond to her own unlikable character. The judgment of Paris and the birthing of her son Hephaestus can prove her behaviour into violent, spiteful, and malicious without the influence of her husband. Reviewing the perspective of Hera in the affair between Zeus and Callisto, it can significantly justify her vengeful feelings and behaviours. The Fabulae Hyginus, published in 1681, written by Gaius Julius Hyginus, discusses various myths in the ancient world. The daughter of King Lycaon and Naiad Nonocris, Callisto, who was one of Artemis's followers, vowing chastity and virginity. Therefore, Callisto was frequently found in the company of Artemis, bringing her into close proximity with the other gods, eventually catching the eye of Zeus. Zeus was the father of Artemis, which exhilarated another level of betrayal to Artemis and her developed retinue. The incorrigible Zeus had decided to descend from Mount Olympus and had approached Callisto. The Fabulae Hyginus states that Zeus disguised himself as the goddess Artemis to not alarm Callisto. However, other accounts state that he had approached her as a male figure. He proceeded to take her virginity, and Callisto was forced to hide her newly bound pregnancy in front of Artemis and her followers. As time passed, it became more difficult to hide her pregnancy. Her womb grew heavier near the time of her delivery, and Callisto refused to disclose this information to Artemis as she feared anger and punishment. Artemis had finally discovered that Callisto was no longer a virgin when she was bathing in the rivers near the forest. She became angry at Callisto for breaking her vow of chastity and further suspended her from the assemblage. According to the documentary Art France, the wrath and indignation Artemis now held towards Callisto left Zeus feeling guilty and culpable, and as such he transformed Callisto and her son into bears. Yet, other sources articulate that they had transformed into bears because of Hera's jealousy, so no one could experience the beauty of Callisto. Callisto had felt vengeful towards Zeus, prompting her to seize Callisto into a bear, allowing her to feel a sense of redemption. Later, Zeus had saved Callisto, turning her into a constellation known as Arctos, the Great Bear, as Hera continued to work against her to get Artemis to think that she was a normal bear and slay her. Through the moral and principled perspective, it is quite evident that Hera had the right to become jealous and vindictive towards her husband with his admissible cheating actions and immoral decisions, especially due to the fact that Hera is the goddess of marriage, eliciting to the population of Greece that marriage is sacred, but it is more important to the female than it is to the male. Addressing Zeus's limited respect to their commitment and his infidelities, which give license to all other Greek men, modelling that having affairs and cheating is acceptable. It is accurate to say that Zeus had a lustful eye, wanting any woman to play mistress, sometimes not considering Hera his wife. This concept had been reflected amongst his want over Io. He had seen her and fell madly in love with her, beginning to attempt to seduce and claim her as his own. However, she had been avoiding his amorous attempts. Most accounts suggest that Io was the first human woman that Zeus had had an affair with. Due to Io's reluctancy to Zeus's intentions, Zeus used clouds to surround her and make love to her using trickery. Later, Hera found out about his affair and transformed Io into a white cow, punishing her and prohibiting further consummation. Continuing to curse her, Hera had sent a gadfly to continuously bite Io, causing her to wander the lands in mortal unrest, pursuing her suffering, which was particularly harsh and vindictive. Hera then sent a gadfly to torment Io, who therefore wandered all over the earth, crossing the Ionian Sea, swam the strait that was thereafter known as the Bosporus, and at last reached Egypt. A famous dramatization, Prometheus Bound, written by Aeschylus, suggests otherwise. Instead of Hera transforming Io into a cow due to her jealousy, Zeus transforms Io to protect her from Hera's vindictive behaviour. Am I enthralled by thee in penis long, Io the ox-horn maid, thy love of old. Later, Hera had requested Zeus to gift her with the ox, and with the control of Io's life in the palm of Hera's hand, she cursed Io to wander the earth with mortal unrest, harasses o'er leagues and leagues of land. In the resolution of the play, Hera states that thou art she whose beauty fired the breast of Zeus with passion, she whom hearers hate, stating that anyone who purposely forms any connection with Zeus will endure the wrath of Hera. It is clear that Zeus continuously fuels Hera's anger and rage, and that Hera's actions are a direct response to Zeus's conduct. It is evident that Hera is a loyal woman powered by revenge, forming spells and curses to ensure that her husband only interacts with her. It has been proven that Hera is a victim of Zeus's actions, resulting in her vindictive and rageful behaviours. However, some events prove that her jealous and spiteful actions are still present without the negative influence of her husband, Zeus. The judgment of Paris is a perfect example, exemplifying the significant negative behaviours of Hera. The scheme begins with the debut of a golden apple, thrown by goddess Eris, encouraging a dispute between Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite as to which of them is the fairest, allowing the apple to become a prize to the goddess with the most beauty. According to the Cypria, written by Statinus, they were further led by Hermes at the command of Zeus to Alexandros on Mount Ida for his decision. The goddesses then appeared before Paris, the shepherd prince of Troy, and offered him gifts to benefit their favour. Hera had promised Paris land and riches, Aphrodite promised him the love from the most beautiful woman in the world, and Athena promised victory in battle. After judging all the goddesses, Paris chose Aphrodite. The author of the Cypria discusses her staggering beauty along with her immaculate smell, followed by her laughter and more. She clothed herself with garments which the Carites and Horai had made for her and dyed in flowers of spring, such flowers as the Horai wear, in crocus and hyacinth and flourishing violet and the rose's lovely bloom, so sweet and delicious and heavenly buds, the flowers of the narcissus and lily laughter loving Aphrodite, and her handmaidens wove sweet-smelling crowns of flowers of the earth, and put them upon their heads, the bright coiffed goddesses, the Nymphi and Carites, and golden Aphrodite too, while they sang sweetly on the mount of many fountain Ida. Paris had decided to choose Aphrodite, both for her astonishing beauty and her proposal to be gifted the love of the most beautiful woman in the world, who for many was Helen, the Queen of Sparta. Husband to Helen, Menelaus, King of Sparta, was not happy when Paris had come to propose his love to her. This was the beginning of the Trojan War. The decision of choosing Aphrodite had evidently angered Hera. Already possessing a vindictive and vengeful mindset, she decided to do everything in her power to ensure that Troy was destroyed in the war. She explicitly supported Greece in winning the battle simply for the reason that she felt spiteful that she was not chosen as the fairest goddess. Hera became so obsessed with ensuring that Troy would experience defeat, she spent much time arguing with Zeus, determining the outcome of the war, convincing him to cancel the truce between the Greeks and Trojans to result with endured fighting and the death of more Trojans. Hera was so determined with making sure that Greece would win that when Zeus forbid the gods from interfering with the outcome of the war, she had seduced him and further drugged Zeus into a deep sleep so that she could interfere. Book 14 in the Iliad shows when Hera seduces Zeus, overcome at once by sleep and love, he held his spouse in his arms. I have sent him into a sweet slumber, and Juno has beguiled him into going to bed with her. Hera's behaviour in this scenario clearly betrays her true identity, with no external influences, allowing the audience to learn that Hera reacts immaturely and immorally because it is simply her character. Another clear example demonstrating Hera's true temperament is seen in the story of Hera birthing her son, Hephaestus. According to the ancient writer Apollodorus, Hera gave birth to Hephaestus without intercourse, but was still one of her children by Zeus, meaning that Zeus was the father to Hephaestus. Many accounts state that because Hera was so beautiful, when she birthed her son and saw that he came out looking deformed, it caused her to feel infatuated with rage. The ugliness of Hephaestus was sufficient for Hera to immediately reject the baby, and so the Greek goddess was said to have thrown her child off of Mount Olympus. Later on in Hephaestus' life, his hatred towards his mother became more indisputable, in which he began to plan revenge. This image depicts a painting of a pottery piece, Hephaestus ascending to Mount Olympus drunk, being supported by a satyr, which is a male spirit with a tail and ears, preparing to induce reprisal on Hera. The original action of Hera throwing her own son off Mount Olympus because of his lack of beauty significantly portrays Hera with her vindictive and ruthless behaviour. Considering all circumstances and sources, it is evident that Hera can be characterized as vindictive and violent, with and without the influence of her husband. However, many of her vindictive actions are a consequence of the many unfaithful acts of Zeus. Due to his repeated affairs, Hera had built a solution to be able to forgive him only if she could eliminate, curse, or trouble the woman in the matter, showing true vindictive and spiteful behaviour. Therefore, Hera's negative and violent behaviour can be explained to some extent as a consequence of her distrust of her relationship with Zeus, influencing and affecting her to the point where she feels as if she must act in some way to uphold her marriage.